I have to say, I used to see people on Duolingo, whoever, saying, I got a 700-day streak, and I used to be like jealous and think, oh, I wish I could be that committed to something. I wish I could do something like that every day. And now that I've found my path for learning, the way I learn the best, I should say. I like, not that it's a waste of time, but I'm not jealous of a streak, like a Duolingo streak, because knowing what I know now and what I can say now, Duolingo teaches you none of that.
So today I'm here with Daniel from the UK. And first thing, introduce yourself. Who are you and why did you need to speak or to improve your Spanish?
Sí. Hola, me llamo Danny. My name is Dan. I'm from the UK. Um, I have been going to see friends in Madrid for about 10 years now, on and off. I had an opportunity to move to Madrid, which I now live in. So 6 months before I knew I was going to move, I really wanted to improve my Spanish conversationally. Before I moved, my friends are fluent. They're from the States, but they've lived in Madrid for 10 years. So I had a lot of catching up to do. And I mean, what better opportunity than to learn whilst living in Spain? But I wanted a decent head start.
Mhm. Okay, wonderful. If you have to name your biggest struggle before starting working together, what was it?
Hmm. I think there's a lot of things there. I think confidence is a big one. Thinking that a language is so huge, how am I ever going to learn a completely new language? And like I said, spending time in Madrid and listening to people speak in the street and n- thinking that I would never be able to remember those words or anything like that. But also, on top of confidence as well, I think learning a language is hard. It's complicated, and I didn't necessarily know that I would respond well to learning something new. Like, I wasn't great in school, really, like from the educational perspective. So I guess there's a few things.
Okay. What did you try before? Uh,
Mhm.
Maybe apps, Duolingo, classes, something.
I'm sure you hear this a lot. I definitely used Duolingo when I was kind of thinking or playing around with the idea of learning a language. But to no real success with that. It is really just a game. Um, in the pandemic, I studied for my A1 with a Spanish school. That was, I think, 3, 4 hours a week, in a online group study learning session. And I did get my A1. I think I did that for about 3 months. Um, but I kind of left it thinking, I feel like I've studied a language, but I can't speak a language, and I didn't retain a lot of it. So
Mm,
even though it was good, and some of it did stay with me, but it wasn't enough to be able to have a conversation.
okay. What was missing on the on during on this on in these sessions?
Mm, and that's interesting. Um, I think what was missing, I think the opportunity to, oh, definitely, the opportunity to speak. Even, Duolingo is obviously, you're playing on it on your phone. In group classes, yes, you do have opportunity to speak, but a lot of it is textbook
Mm,
kind of study, and because you're in a group, you don't obviously have the entire length of that lesson to speak. You only get smaller opportunities. Um, but I think in a way, at the beginning, I was happy in that comfort zone of telling myself I was learning a language, but actually not a word of it was coming out of my mouth. So yeah, I would say the opportunity to speak, even if you don't think you know enough to say even simple things, but just beginning to create your Spanish voice, really.
Mhm. Okay. How did you feel after the months of trying or well playing on Duolingo, but maybe we're not able to speak? Yeah. So how did you feel?
Well, I think in a way it wrongly confirmed for me how difficult learning a language was going to be because I felt like I'd invested a lot of time in, Duolingo and 3 months worth of classes, and I feel like I'd maybe, if you could ever say 1 to 100% in your learning language journey, I felt maybe like it was maybe at 1%. And I was like, wow, you really have to. I thought you had to invest, like, it made me think I had to invest so much of my time that it just almost felt unachievable.
Mhm.
So it left me feeling like, yeah, I knew this was going to be difficult and hard, but not that this was actually going to be a lot harder and longer process than I thought it could be.
In
Maybe
fact,
decades.
yeah. People try this type of well Duolingo especially, because a lot of times they don't have time, or this is what they say. I don't have time, so I try Duolingo. But those 5 minutes that you are spending on Duolingo, you spend it if you spend them on speaking. Uh,
Mhm.
at the end of a year, you have spoken much more than the 0 minutes that you have spoken if you have tried Duolingo for 5, 10 minutes a day during the year, right? At the end, it's zero practice. So, but well, people continue thinking about this.
Yeah. And and just on that, I am someone who would consider themselves to be time poor, don't have a lot of time, just like lots and lots of people. And I did think, how am I going to, make the time that I thought it would needed to learn a language? And then I realized I was spending, I don't know, 4, maybe 5 hours a day on Instagram every day.
Yeah.
And thinking I had no, I'm so busy, but I'm making time for something that isn't productive. And I
Mm.
think you do need some of that. You need to switch off a little bit. But I don't I made it made me look at myself in a mirror and say, you're not as busy as you think you are.
Yeah. In fact, no, nobody is, but everybody thinks. Everybody think we are right. It's like, yeah, I'm very busy, I'm extremely busy, I'm working all day, I have kids, I whatever, but at the end I'm scrolling, right? And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
So what was the moment when you thought, okay, I need to change how I'm learning? Do you remember if there was a specific situation, a specific moment where you said, hmm, I need to change this?
Well, I think actually it was the decision to take it seriously and invest in it. I think, I Duolingo is free for the most part, or the group classes I did, fine, cost effective, but not necessarily giving results in my personal experience. But it's I think it'd be easy for me to say, well, I knew that I was moving to Madrid, so that's a very good motivator, and that is true, and that is kind of what helped me to take it seriously. But that decision to take learning seriously, I think, is an important one, and to invest in it. So, even if you're not moving to another country, in this case, a Spanish speaking country, but you want to learn Spanish for whatever reason, I think having a conversation with yourself about how seriously you want something, and and how much you want to learn something, because it's not always necessarily about the end product, like learning Spanish. It can offer you lots of different things, discipline. It can help you in all different places, but just that decision to take it seriously for me was like the turning point, really.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What?
Mm.
What did you? Well, I remember your message in May, I think. Uh,
Mhm.
and what was, or what did you see in the system, or in our profile, in the method maybe, that made you think, okay, let's try, this is different, maybe, or maybe the first time we met, uh,
Mhm.
what was, no, what made you think, okay, maybe this is the way.
Yeah. So in my own research about learning Spanish or finding different ways of learning, researching, how people learn languages on YouTube, whatever it was, I kept coming across something called comprehensible input, which basically is kind of like, using what you know to push further into learning what you don't know, kind of thing. So like inputting language that you do know very simply, like hola, qué tal, gracias, all the things you do know, and then building your speech vocabulary from there. And I thought, at least for me, that that would be really good because it took the study out of it, in the sense of like not reading verb tables all the time, or like learning from a textbook, or having a very fixed way of learning something. Because I had a goal, really, was, not necessarily to learn the mechanics of Spanish, you know off the top of my head, but
Mhm.
being able to communicate conversationally, um in my day-to-day life in Spain.
Mm.
So it made the most sense for me, in terms of my learning style, but also what my motivation was, to explore a way of learning that was very much speech-led and relevant to me. I think when I had my call with you, um, and we moved forward, and I filled out that kind of survey about things about my life,
Mm.
and they have since kind of made they've shown up through the 6 months that I spent with you, in terms of the practices that I've done, or the speaking drills and things like that. So it felt familiar and personal to me in my life, and I was more able to let myself go with it, because it felt easier. It didn't feel like I was being tested. Like, you learn verb tables in school, and you go and have an exam, and basically it's a memory test, what
Mm.
you can remember from that table. But is it a practical application? No, not really, not for me. So it just felt like the best way forward for my learning.
People confuse speak Spanish with study Spanish.
No, yeah.
And everybody, under my experience, every day I receive like 10, 20, between 10 and 20 messages of people saying, I want to speak Spanish. But zero of those messages are doing, or are learning Spanish in a way that allow them to speak Spanish.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah,
like, I want this and I'm doing this. It's
yeah,
like, it doesn't matter how long you do Duolingo or lessons, because people, they think that if they do more lessons, they will learn how to speak faster. And it's like, well, if you don't speak, you won't learn how to speak, right?
yeah.
it's, it's ridiculous, but people still think that that's the way, right? And that's why they are keeping doing lessons and lessons and lessons. And with Duolingo, I've seen streaks of thousand. It's crazy.
I
Uh,
I have to say, I used to see people on Duolingo, whoever, saying, I got a 700-day streak, and I used to be like jealous and think, oh, I wish I could be that committed to something. I wish I could do something like that every day. And now that I've found my path for learning, the way I learn the best, I should say, I like, not that it's a waste of time, but I'm not jealous of a streak, like a Duolingo streak, because it now knowing what I know now and what I can say now, Duolingo teaches you none of that. So like you know, any foundation is great. You know, if you can remember loads of like words from Duolingo, great. I personally know for me, I would never have become fluent in Spanish if I'd stuck with Duolingo or even passive learning, you know,
Mhm.
like just reading, gaming, whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, people treat Duolingo like if it was a solid base to build their speaking confidence, and in
Mm.
fact, it's just a game.
It is, yeah, it is. It's a memory game.
They are making, well, they're having a great confusion in that aspect, but well, they will find out.
Mm.
What were you when we started working together? What were you expecting to achieve in your first months? Let's say maybe you thought, I'm not sure. I try, but I'm not sure. Maybe during the first weeks, I don't know if this is working. How did you feel these first weeks and months?
Yeah, yeah. I should say that I started learning with you about 6 months before I moved to Spain. So I wasn't in Spain yet. And I came to Spain, Madrid, maybe when I had 1 month left with you. So I very much had a goal of, I mean, not becoming fluent in that time, but I very much had, you know, I it was going to be the start of that journey. I wanted to have a good base. So I guess what I expected really was to be able to at least represent myself in a way that felt true to me in the, you know, in the way that meeting new people and being able to communicate some information like about myself and maybe to be able to navigate around in a way that I can in London, where I used to live, and obviously in English. So I very much was expecting, well, hoping for, I should say, um, after the first 6 months to, I think, confidence again, but like feel like I'm able to get what I need, communicate a little bit about who I am, and just start small from there. And actually, that did happen. Um, and more. I think I became more comfortable with speaking a foreign language, in this case, Spanish. Even like with making mistakes. Um, yeah, so I expected to build a foundation of sorts, I guess.
Okay. Let's walk through a little bit the those first months. What did your practice actually look like, or your what was the work, right? Or
Mm.
how, because a lot of people they think that I do I don't know, that I send homework to people and I'm a normal teacher, you know. There's a lot of regular teachers. I don't like to be like this type of teaching style because I've I was there
Mm.
years ago, no? So I saw a lot of frustration in people that they were doing traditional lessons, and between lessons they didn't have any opportunity to practice to speak because they were not living in Spain, so they didn't have any opportunity. And what traditional teachers do is I send you homework, you fill in blanks, you read the text, you do whatever, and then see you next week, right?
Yeah.
At the end they were not speaking. So how it looked, the way that we were working for you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and talking about expectation, I didn't expect as much of I didn't expect as much as you gave really. So like a good example for that is, you know, we would meet every week, go through different topics, you know, like there is a structure to it. There isn't just repeating what you say kind of thing like that. There is learning involved. Of course there has to be, but I referenced earlier the kind of form that I filled in about like my life and things that I liked and things about me and I you would send me kind of questions that I would about my life or something relevant to me or something I liked, whatever it is, um, that I would have to respond to you with a response in Spanish on voice note on WhatsApp. And I mean, you definitely know this. I was doing that, but I didn't expect that I could voice note basically anything to you in Spanish, like walking to the gym and talking about, something relevant to my day in Spanish, and that you would come back to me with corrections or feedback, eh, what's great about like voice noting is that you can send something and then you would respond to it when you are able to respond to it as close to live as you could get, really. And that was really helpful because it felt like every opportunity that I had free felt like an opportunity to practice, to speak,
Mhm.
and have a very quick response and feedback and corrections that I could listen back to myself again. I need that. I need like to listen back to something. I need to yeah, like visualize something again, watch something back, and read things back as well. So it's really useful to have like what I'd said, your feedback or corrections written and voice noted back to me that I could go back and rehearse, if you will.
Mhm.
So yeah, like it was very immersive.
Okay, wonderful. How long did it take you to start noticing or seeing the first little results?
You tell me. So I think I began to I think maybe that's hard. I think maybe 2 months in, I began to realize that I was remembering things that I didn't think I could remember slash know why I remembered them. Like I had retained things that I hadn't necessarily have studied. I think that's the thing. You think you're going to study something, and that is the thing that's going to make you remember it. And actually, I found that just by speaking and having new elements being kind of fed to me, that I was learning things or learning how to execute things without studying them, if that makes sense. So like that felt really, and that was about 2 3 months in. I think it's a learning curve for sure, but I think I began to feel like I was learning something pretty early on.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I always mm, use the same example in your case. It's I remember in day one you were speaking. The first practice was around 8 seconds,
Yeah.
9 seconds.
Mm.
And on day 61, you sent me an audio of 12 minutes.
Yeah.
So it was like very fast. A lot of people they don't progress that fast, but I think that was because in your case, I remember that during the first month, I think or something like that, you were like I don't know if you felt stuck or something happened. You were preparing your I don't know that you were moving or something with your job or something like this. But you told me I need to. I don't know I think that I need to practice more, but I don't know what to say about what to tell you or something like this. And then I don't remember what I told you, but you started sending me a lot of audios, uh,
Mhm.
and then the process was like much faster, right? It was like because you were just answering the practices, I think.
Yeah.
And I told you everything every day because you thought you were bothering me, right? Or
Well,
something.
yeah, because like, you don't necessarily, you don't necessarily expect or think you're going to get so much of somebody's time, like, and just that even obviously, I like pay for your for you to teach me, ultimately, but like I didn't expect as much of feedback as I was getting for sure. So I was like, I don't know if I'm pushing it by just video voice noting absolutely everything, or I should stick to like these are the questions, these are the answers. And like when you said that, not that it, you know, it was great to have that to know that I could do that, but it wasn't the reason that I pushed through and like spoke more. It was because I said to you, like, I know I need to practice speaking more. I know that's the thing, but I don't have the vocabulary. And you said, well, like, I don't care. Just try with what you have, with what you know. And every week we will introduce like more things and those just like anything, like going to the gym, anything like that. These small wins over time result in something bigger. When you look at a finished product and you're at the beginning of that journey and you think, I don't know how I'm ever going to get there, because you can't get there in one big jump. Like it is these like little things. And once I understood that and felt comfortable making mistakes or like, you know, understanding that, it made it easier for me to just throw myself into it and just be okay with making mistakes. Because I think that's another thing. I felt like I didn't want to make mistakes, which is crazy when I don't claim to be fluent. I haven't lied to someone in a job interview and said I'm fluent. But I do. I didn't want to make mistakes, but it made it easy to do that.
Yeah, well, the thing is that there's not another way to progress. If
Yeah.
I fall, I cannot get up. So how can I progress if I'm not constantly making mistakes? I always tell you, if you do 1,000 mistakes, it's much better than if you do two. Because if
Mm,
you're doing two, you are not learning anything because everything you are saying you already know. So what are you learning if
mm,
you're not making mistakes? But if you are doing constant mistakes, another thing is that if you were doing constant mistakes about something that we have already done during a long period of time, but if it's something new for you, but people prefer to always to put excuses like I don't know what to talk about, so that's why I don't speak because I don't know the words. I was like, yeah, maybe you don't know all the words, but you don't need them, right? It's like we can build that. No, any kid know how to speak, right? And they learn, they build that confidence by making mistakes. There's no other way. But people, they think that they need to study and learn all the words in Spanish. And when they have already learned all by heart, then they will be able to speak. And it's like,
mm.
you'll never be able to remember all the words, right? It's like, it has no sense to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have to say, when you said that to me, that, you know, like it's better for you to make 1,000 mistakes than two, I was like, that makes no sense to me. Like, why would I want to make that many mistakes? Like, I want to be right. But obviously, like it's obvious, it's logical and obvious that you would have to make loads of mistakes to learn something. And I don't know what I needed that in focus for me to really move forward. And I think that that insight really helped me. It was frustrating, don't get me wrong. It was frustrating at times because I knew that I wanted to say, but I didn't have the vocabulary to say it. And if we're talking, you know, tell me about your day at the gym or whatever it is. And I was like, I don't have all the words, but like, so I won't try at all. But actually, like, just trying with the words you know or think you know, like that's what pushes you forward in very, very small bits. Yes, but that's just like anything.
Yeah, well, deal with the frustration is one of the
Yeah.
biggest problems that people have when learning Spanish because it's much easier to deal with confidence when you are filling blanks. But when you have a white paper that it's speaking, it's like I don't know. I don't have any reference because I cannot read and I cannot, it's like I cannot write. So when it comes to speaking, it's much more difficult to deal with um, this this fear of don't know what to say next, all this type of things, right? It's like it's a great problem. It's a big problem to deal with that frustration of I don't know what to say. I don't know if this is wrong. I don't know if this is right. Well, it happened all the time.
And
But there's no other way to learn, right?
And listen, like in school, I did German and French. Sometimes I would have a German lesson and then go straight into a French lesson after, which is ridiculous. But we would only ever really, like fill in blanks in textbooks, in school. But then we would be assessed on our speaking, and we would go into a room with a teacher without a book or anything like that and asked to answer questions. But
Mhm.
those things don't, they're completely different. You're just studying and speaking. They are two different things. One, studying doesn't give you speaking. And I think I took that experience and thought, well, if that's the way you have to learn a language, I'm not going to be able to learn it. But
Mm.
actually, that's what I found different with you.
Mhm. Wonderful. Great. How did you there's a big problem for people that we were talking about before, and it's time.
Mhm.
Uh, I think you could you could be a great example because you have moved from to a country to another. It has been a great, a huge step, right? And a lot of movement, and requires a lot of time.
Mm.
Also, we're working. So, how did you fit Spanish into your day, even when you had no time? Let's say.
Yes. Well, for context, I came to you when I knew I was going to be moving to Madrid, but that was I was living in London in a flat that I rented. Um, in that time, to get to living in Madrid, I had to go through the visa process. I had to move out of London, start a new job, the job that I now do in Madrid from the UK, move back in with my parents for a couple of months and before going to Madrid to do the visa process. So I would consider that period of time one that was quite time poor. But I think you have to you have to look in a mirror a bit and think, how am I actually using my time? Where am I losing hours in my day that I think I'm so busy with, but actually could be used for this? For me, as I said, it was realizing that I could spend 4 or 5 hours a day on Instagram. And you definitely need time to decompress, but 5 hours a day, like, or like, watching TV, whatever it is, like, I felt like that. And at times, when things got busy for whatever reason, it did feel difficult to fit everything in, but I that is what commitment is about. And really what helped me not only was kind of reducing wasted time on social media, watching TV, but being, like I say, like walking to the gym, voice noting in Spanish to you, something about my day, or just, something relevant, or playing around with something that I've heard in Spanish that I like, or whatever it is, like finding moments in your day when you're, I don't know, traveling or
Mm.
and it actually doesn't have to be. I still kind of make the mistake now where I have, questions to answer on voice note and I will do them. I will select, I don't know, an hour in the day to do them all, where actually I could, if I split them all into, 5 minutes, whatever, every day, it wouldn't feel such a burden. So they're, even for someone that says, and I believe anyone who says that they're busy, they're time poor, there is a way to fit things in.
So I always say the same. It's like if you don't have time, why you speak English every day?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
if you had no time, you wouldn't be able to speak English, right?
yeah,
Because but you don't need time to speak English. So why you should need why would you need time to speak Spanish? But again, we go to the conclusion. People think speak Spanish is study Spanish.
yeah,
So you have to sit down in a chair, find the perfect moment, quiet, no stress, everything in silence, and then start studying. And it's like, no, you can do it. You find a moment. I have 2 weeks ago, I talked with Claire, a student, that she was like extremely busy. She was not able to find those moments, and I saw her, and I saw that she was wearing makeup. I was like, so you don't have time. You are working like 15 hours a day. You are changing your schedule, whatever, but you have time to do your makeup. Yeah, every day. How long do you take to in order to make up? Oh, it's around 5 minutes. Fuck. Speak those 5 minutes. Something that you are already doing. You don't have to just speak Spanish. You can speak Spanish while you are walking the dog. Right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah, exactly. You and it's about priorities, isn't it? Like you have if you want it, if you really want it, your priorities will and can change around it. And I had to learn that from you, really. Like I did really want it. I had a real motivator for for the first time, but I didn't think that was the only thing that's got me to where I am. It's it's priorities, changing your priorities and like, really wanting something.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Mm.
Um, do you remember what was your first I did it moment? Like, I don't know. What did you, if you remember any situation, maybe when you traveled to Spain, or I don't know, when you had a conversation where you said, yes, perfect.
Yeah, I definitely do have one. Um, when I first went to Madrid in September 2025, I think, maybe the first couple of weeks I was there, um, my friend's partner is Colombian. I've met him a few times, but he doesn't speak English, and I don't speak Spanish. Um, my friend, his partner is bilingual, obviously. Um, and I've went over theirs for some drinks or something like that. And the Colombian partner, came back from work. Um, maybe I had a drink or two, but he, I was able, we were able to communicate for the first time and like understand each other and actually like almost see each other for the first time. Like he understood my energy, and I understood his more because we understood what we were saying to each other. And it's actually the first time that, and then my friend kind of came out of the bathroom or something and was listening to us talking, and he was like shocked because the last time I saw him, I knew no Spanish. So from that, which was maybe only, I don't know, 5, 6 months before, to like being able to hold a conversation with his partner, his shock was kind of my I did it moment for sure. And it shocked me. So
I think you think you know much less than what you already know. You know,
100%.
yeah. That you are much worse than what you already are.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Right.
true. It is true.
When people hear you, I a lot of people, well, and teachers, when we do the workshops and all this, a lot of times they send me messages. They say, "Oh, I love Daniel because he's speaking a lot with people," and it's like, "Yeah, yeah, I know," uh, but he doesn't believe it, right?
Well, that's
It's
the
like,
thing. Like, I like to think that I like to challenge myself. I do like to push myself, but I'm also not necessarily someone who is naturally an extrovert. I am kind of scared to make mistakes or fail, but I've learned from you that failing to speak is failing. So there is no other kind of option, and anyone can do it. Like I'm not particularly academic, not at all, really. So, yeah, I think anyone can.
mhm, I agree.
Well,
um, hmm, how how did you, or how do you overcome the fear of making mistakes in front of people when you are like, I'm going to, I know what I'm saying it's wrong, or maybe I don't know if this is correct, but even though I'm going to try.
yeah, I think naturally, still, I'm more comfortable making mistakes around people that I'm comfortable with, maybe you. maybe with my bilingual friends in Madrid. But I don't know necessarily how to describe how I kind of overcome the fear, but sometimes I just find it in myself to like put myself in a scenario where if I was in England and I would just naturally speak to someone I didn't know, very briefly about something, to use that as a challenge to, use everyday situations to test and to, have fun. Like when I was in Madrid, the power to my building was switched off without me being told at like 7 in the morning, and the workmen were right outside my apartment. And I went to go to the gym because I couldn't work. And if it was England, if it was the UK, I would have asked a workman outside, like, what time's the power gonna be back? And I didn't. I went to the gym. I didn't really think about it. But then, as I was walking back, I was like, if I don't ask, if I don't try, I'm going to be sitting in a cold apartment without any internet until I don't know what time, and I don't want to do that. So, and I didn't, I didn't find a place to go on my phone and translate exactly what I wanted to say properly. I just threw together what I thought I knew and asked, and he was like, "Oh, it will the power be on back on in a couple of hours." And I think what I said was close enough to right that he understood what I was asking, and I understood the response. So I just think it's little things like that over and over again. Like then I was like ordering parcels not to my address but to like a local shop pickup place, so I could practice asking for collecting a parcel like over and over again. Just like little things that I know, like just little things like that, really.
Okay, wonderful. What would you say to those people who say, I don't know, I want I want to speak Spanish, but maybe what those people are seeing on my Instagram or this type of things is that people are constantly speaking, and they maybe think that they don't have that level or that they are not ready to start. So that's why they prefer to, you know what, I'm going to study first. I'm going to do Duolingo. I'm going to go to traditional lessons. I'm going to buy a book and read, build, sorry, build a solid base on my own or with a teacher, but like a theory base. And then someday, maybe I'm ready to speak.
I think that sounded to me like a logical thing to do. Practice by myself, build a foundation, build a base, and then I'll be ready to to take it seriously, to speak more, to go with a teacher. I actually think, even though it sounds logical and something smart to do, get ahead, I think it holds you back. And I think I definitely did that. I think Duolingo, group online lessons for my A1, very an academic way of doing it. I don't think there's ever a good time to do anything really. Like if you're waiting for the right time to do something, that right time won't arrive, it won't come. So you could do all the practicing or the reading or whatever you want, but again, we've discussed it. They are two different things. You need to have a place where you can go to speak. And if you're not, like I'm lucky to be, living in the country of the language you want to learn, then those places have to be found in some way. And I think, with a professional is probably the best place you can find to do that. So I think actually it's because you're scared of being out of your comfort zone. And I say that from someone who it was the truth for me. I was like, I don't want to fail. I'm scared of like being bad or whatever it is, that I'm just going to stay in this one place until and study, even though, that's not a habit you can hold yourself accountable to. Eventually you'll stop and that will fade. Like you have to be able to take that step into s- speaking and finding accountability. I
Mm.
think that's the main thing.
Yeah, it's like if well, it seems obvious, but when you treat or when you compare it with other examples, but when it comes to speaking or to languages, we don't think the same, right? It's like if I tell you, okay, I want to learn how to drive, perfect. So first, I'm going to watch Formula One videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
But if you want to drive,
Yeah.
why should you or why would you watch Formula One videos for 1 year to get to be ready to start? It's like if I want to learn how no, or if I start watching Michael Phelps videos because I want to learn how to swim. It's like it's not going to help, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
My goal is another thing. If I want to do this, what I'm trying things that they don't help me. Even they seem they help me because at the end you are learning words. I will never say you don't learn some Spanish with Duolingo or with traditional lessons
Yeah.
or with YouTube. You do, but is this what you really want? Do you want to learn Spanish or do you want to speak Spanish with confidence? They are two different things, right?
Yeah. They are.
And the path to go to one or another, it's a different one.
Mhm.
Um, if you could talk to your past self from when we started,
Mhm.
what advice would you give?
I think I would say, even when you don't feel like speaking or doing the speaking practices, whatever they are, do them, because if you don't do them, you won't learn or progress anything. But if you do them, you might do a few things or like advance how confident you are. Like realize you can say things you didn't before. Like it's better to do something. And even if I've had times where I've done a speaking practice and it's just gone for whatever reason badly. That happens with learning Spanish. Sometimes you feel like you've learned absolutely nothing. It's just the way it is. Um, but then sometimes when I've done speaking practices, I have felt like I was going to do really badly, and I feel like I've done really well.
Mm,
And they've just connected in my mind, and I've been able to speak for 12 minutes, let's say, for example, when I didn't think I could that day or so like there is always opportunity to grow into something, but if you don't take that opportunity, you won't grow at all. So I think that's what I would say. And I get it, sometimes I haven't wanted to do my speaking practices and like it's the last thing I want to do, like to challenge yourself, whatever it is after a difficult day. But like it is those little moments, that those little minutes in the day that can even change how you feel that day when you like achieve something that you didn't think you were capable of achieving that day just because you spent 2 minutes speaking Spanish into a voice note.
mhm. Yeah, well, but I have to say you are a one of the I would say the most consistent case that I've ever seen in order to progress with your Spanish, even with frustration, even with well, if feeling lost at a times, uh, you kept doing it, and now you can, I think. You will tell me, right? But I think you feel much more confident with your Spanish. So that was the goal, and and there's other people that during the process they fall or they lose motivation or they feel stuck. They cannot deal with the frustration of making mistakes. That's something very common. But if you continue, if you trust the process, if you do what people who know what they are doing they tell you at the end you speak Spanish with confidence, right? So
Mhm.
what happened? um Tell me one sentence you would say for anyone who feels stuck like you once did?
I would probably say, even if you don't know it, it's your fear of failure that is holding you back the most from achieving your goal, whatever that is. Because, some of us are more aware of our fear of failure than others. But at least for me, wasn't so aware of how much it was preventing me from me achieving my goal.
Mhm.
So I would say, kind of in one sentence, that it's really important just to try and keep trying. Oh, like, try a little bit over and over again.
Mhm. Wonderful. Very good. So that would be everything, Daniel. Thank you very much.
Claro.
Well, as you know, you are one of. I'm very proud of you and of all your progress that you've done because it has been, it has been an example. In fact, I put you as an example a lot of times because if it's not something special. You don't have people a lot of times they ask me, yeah, but maybe Daniel, he's able to do this because he has
No, it's not like that.
not that Daniel is extremely good at languages. It's like is the only thing that he's doing and you are not is that he's putting the practice, right? The speaking and in a mental way even maybe you don't think so. I think you are extremely strong because a lot of people they fall during the process, right? So even you think at some point, I'm not doing this well, I am not being consistent enough, I am whatever. At the end, people is a lot of people is not that much like you do, like you are, you know. So I'm extremely proud of that, and you are the
Muchas gracias.
example that it's possible, and you don't need 5 years to speak Spanish, or 3 years, right? So it's much faster if you know how. So that's it. Dale, thank you very much.
Gracias.
Nos vemos, el resto de la gente, nos vemos
Hasta
próximamente.
luego.
Okay. So, if you are in a similar situation, maybe you've tried apps, lessons, or teachers before, but you still cannot speak with confidence, I hope this video has helped you see what's possible. And if you'd like me to take a look at your case personally and see whether I can help you finally start speak Spanish with confidence, there's a link below. Click there and we will analyze your specific situation. Thank you very much and see you in the next one.